My name is Mario Franco. During an emergency situation like COVID-19 or any other situation, and sometimes it happens, the students cannot attend the classes in the school, then any government, any authority need to create a continuity plan. In an emergency situation, every question arises at the same time, like now. Then a continuity plan is a very important step to be prepared and to answer to the challenges. In this continuity plan, we need to organize the system and the steps and the answers for the decision makers. We have to create an ecosystem who make comprehensive the different problems that the students and the teachers face. And for that, there are several frameworks, that are guides and recommendations we can use, and we will talk about it in the coming videos. OECD has published a framework to guide an education response to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. This framework is a little bit longer than the other alternatives. It has a checklist of 25 items, but I think I can give you an overview what this framework is about. The first point, the first recommendation is to ensure a task force or a steering committee to coordinate the response. We know in this kind of situations the most important is the coordination. There are lots of questions arising because there are different entities involved in a shorter period of time. Then a task force to coordinate all of them is really important. The second recommendation is schedule the means of frequent communication. It's a tool, very important tool for coordination, and also it's difficult to keep everybody involved if you don't have a regular and systematic approach for the communication. The third recommendation is define the principles which will guide the strategy. It's important to clear then the idea is to involve everybody or other aspects related to this, like engage the most vulnerable people. Then the principles are very important. Define the principles, a very important tool to guide the strategy. The fourth recommendation is to create mechanisms of coordination with public health authorities. We know this response in this case is very linked to the health problem, to the pandemic. Then coordinate the narrative and the approach with the health message is very important aspect to taking in consideration. The fifth is to reprioritize the curriculum goals. It's important then to define if the goals of the curriculum is to reinforce the lessons, the studies, the matters which have been already been taught, or if you want to open new ones, how you do it, and assessment questions. Then there are lots of questions related to that which is necessary to clear. The sixth recommendation is to identify the feasibility of the strategy, especially after the pandemic is over. Then to adapt the strategy to the means and to the long-term vision, it's another important aspect. The seventh recommendation is to identify means of education delivery. Of course, the interaction with teachers and students, and the students and teachers themselves is very important, but in some cases this kind of bionic communication is not possible. Then is important to define which means you will use to allow that. Even if you broadcast, you can have phones or other means to communicate. The other important recommendation, number 8, is to define roles and expectations for teachers. Teachers are under strong pressure, and to create a clear vision how the teachers can handle this situation and the expectations about their job will be a good help for everybody. The ninth recommendation is to create a website to communicate with teachers, students, and parents. Of course, you can have different means, different spots to get the information, but it's important to have a centralized point where from there you can go everywhere. If you go in different ways, no problem, but at least if you are lost in the information, you can always go to a central point and get the information. The recommendation number 10 is develop alternative means. We know not everybody will be able to follow the most appropriate means like computer, internet. Then it's important to have alternative means to participate to avoid maximum situation of people excluded. Recommendation number 11 is to ensure adequate support for the most vulnerable students. We know there are many families with different cultural levels, with different conditions, different contexts, and some of the special people with special needs too, but not only. Then it's important to have adequate approach for the most vulnerable. The other number 12 recommendation is enhance the communication and collaboration among students. They have to keep in touch with their peers, and it's important to promote that kind of communication. Recommendation number 13, create mechanism of just-in-time professional development for teachers. Some of the teachers will have difficulties to change their way of work. They are not so used to this kind of tools. Then to prepare an approach to train the teachers is very, very important. Number 15, define appropriate mechanisms of student assessment. Maybe the assessment is not the most important in the short term, but it's important to clarify what will be the way to assess the students' outcomes of this process. Recommendation number 15, define appropriate mechanisms for promotion and graduation for teachers. The teachers have expectations in their career. Then it's important to clarify what will be the situation, what will be the way to tackle this problem under this situation. Recommendation number 16, it's important to have a framework and make online education and other modalities very clear. There are many reasons and many ways to define the framework, the rules, how this should be used, and what kind of approaches in administrative terms. Recommendation number 17, each school should develop a plan of continuity of operations. That's very important. To have a macro vision is clear the basis, but every school have to answer in their context. Then help the schools to develop their own continuity plans. It's one maybe of the key points of this framework. Recommendation number 18, it is important to have alternative means of distribution of food. We know many schools are delivering food, and for some students this is maybe the only meal or the only meals where they can have a proper meal. Then to define alternative ways to keep these students with the delivery of food is very, very important. And the recommendation number 19, it's related to that. Develop alternative forms of provision for health and social service. Another social services are done when the students are in the school. Many countries have programs related to that, and now is necessary when the students are at home and separate to keep these services and these provisions in operation. Recommendation number 20, checking daily with each student. That's the most important, by phone, by other, even a personal contacts in some cases, or by internet. The students should be contacted every day. The recommendation number 21st is related to the schools should develop mechanisms of daily checking with the teachers and school staff. We know this is very important to help them to keep their working in operation. Recommendation 22, schools should provide guidance to students and families about safe use. We know the school as an institution of education can help the families and the students to know, and especially in vulnerable families, this is very important if they don't have many other means of getting information. The recommendation number 23rd, identify other school networks or systems and create forms of regular communication. Then don't allow the schools are separate and in their alone and the alone in this situation, but trying to keep a kind of network communication. The recommendation number 24, ensure the school leaders get the financial, logistic, and moral support. We know then the leaders will be under big pressure, and in some cases under financial or logistical pressure. Then it's very important to have a clear approach to support them and in this critical time. The recommendation, the last recommendation, recommendation 25th, develop a communication plan. Then the communication around this situation and clear what is the objectives, how you are working, and update the public and the teachers, the students, the schools, but all the community and all the country informed about what is going on and how you are operating is, of course, a critical moment to avoid a big debate on confusions in what will be special. People will ask about assessment, or if they don't have the means, what they do. Then clear, it's important to have a strong communication plan in this situation. Okay, this is the overview of the checklist of Oecd. Then we will publish other videos in at least some of the topics mentioned here. This webcast is part of the Sustainable EdEdu Policy Framework Accelerator Workshop. And this webcast, or this group of webcasts related to distance learning and education, can be used as a single model, or you can choose to go to all the workshop, and because some of the other webcasts in other sections will be related to the implementation or have subjects related to this webcast. Then this webcast is not alone, but you can go and see more and more information in the other parts of this workshop. The workshop itself is part of the Sustainable EdEdu Policy Framework Architecture, which is a framework of frameworks to train and planning and implement ICT education projects in a sustainable way. Then please feel free to go to the website and to look at the different parts, different sections where I deliver a lot of videos and also documents and links to implement this kind of projects. Thank you.